Hi everyone, welcome to another video. Thanks for coming back, and I just wanted to say thank you for your response to my last video. It's always hard putting yourself out there online, so I really appreciate all of your support. So let's get right into this video. Today I wanted to take out my gouache paints. It's been a while, and I thought that it'd be fun to just go back to trying to make a sort of ethereal landscape, something fantasy, something whimsical and fairy-like. I love those sorts of aesthetics vibes. So for this first painting, I'm using a limited color palette. I thought that that would add to the fantasy effect, but also keep things a little bit on the simpler side for me, since I'm, again, just getting back into painting again. It's not always easy to dive into these sorts of things. And I like to use these little tricks to attempt to make things a little less pressureful for myself. But I will say that this painting was very difficult and it didn't exactly turn out how I planned in my head. But that's okay. There's nothing wrong with paintings not turning out how you imagined. I think that honestly, part of being an artist and part of art journeys is learning to be okay with things not being perfect. I kind of personally think that art would be really boring if it came out exactly how I planned every single time. Learning is part of the fun. Growing, having room to grow is part of the fun. Or I would just be taking pictures of everything and not doing art. But that's just how I see it. But back to the painting at hand here, I chose to use my Niji, I'm not sure how to say it, artist gouache, because they seem to have these vibrant colors. At least the pots looked very vibrant. On the paper they are vibrant, but just not as vibrant as they are on the pots. These vibrant colors that I really wanted to use in this fantasy fairy-like painting. I wanted things to look like they were glowing. I don't quite have the skill set to make things glow very obviously yet, but I'm trying my best. And it was a lot of fun to just experiment and play with the mood of the painting. Experiment with water a little bit and the sky, using, again, similar colors to each other, but there's still different values in there. Technically it's the sky and the ground that are the same undertone, and the trees, and then the water is a different undertone. So they're not just different in value, they're different in undertone. I'll admit that the water in this painting is my least liked part of it. I tried to put shadows for the trees in the water, but it just didn't quite make sense, and that's okay. It was just experimenting. I really did like how the sky turned out though. There we go. We're gonna be making some clouds with, at first I just added water to try to lighten some of the areas, and then I started adding lighter and lighter colors. I even put a bit of the vibrant green and yellow at the bottom of some of the clouds to show a little reflection. And that was a lot of fun. So I was really unsure of how to tackle the foreground of this painting. I had known that I wanted to do a bit of water in the background and clouds and that moody sky, but I had no clue what to do with the front. So I just thought, if it's a fairyland, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of foliage. So I started adding greens where I could, some moss, and then eventually I added a bit of grass, a couple of flowers at the very end, but they're super light, hard to notice. I didn't want to make it too detailed. I didn't want to take away from the focal point of that water and sky by putting too much in the front. But I did want to create that sort of glow that I was attempting to do with the clouds too, by putting the similar greens and yellows that I used in the sky on the moss. But this moss still didn't feel like enough detail, so I decided to texturize the other areas of grass by pretending they were like, I don't even know, lily pads? I don't know. They're not actually lily pads because of course those would be in water, but it's that sort of shape. And I just thought, it's a fantasy world, so whether it works or doesn't work in real life, I don't think it has to matter. And then I tried to add texture to the trees, which I wish that I would have spent a bit more time on that and really looked at my reference, and studied what bark is like, because it's such a difficult thing for me to paint. But that study can happen at a different time, and I don't think that they turned out bad. I just think that I could have grown more, and maybe I will next time. So I switched brushes when I was making these last tall grass pieces, and I think that was so important. I am the worst for always using the same brush almost the entire painting, and that's a huge hindrance on myself. I find it really difficult to paint grass, to be completely honest. I have a hard time every time, but when I use that long, thin brush, it really helped. I also think that the falling foliage from the tree, it accentuated the focal point of the piece, and I love it. I love that part of it. I have always enjoyed a dangling plant, though. It's just, falling flowers is a beautiful imagery. I think that's the word I'm looking for. I'm not quite sure. So I'm just adding a few more details. These little dots that are meant to be glowing. I think that I imagined them as pixies kind of thing. I love adding dots at the very end of my paintings. I don't know why, it always makes things better, I swear. To make sure that the tape came off easier, off camera I used a hairdryer on it to make it warmer, and then it comes off pretty easy after doing that. And there it is. I hope you like it. So we're gonna be moving on to another painting too, and this time I am just doing water. I was really disappointed in how my water turned out in the other painting, and I was like, this is the perfect time to do a study. And I think that this turned out better than I had hoped, because I didn't put a lot of pressure on myself for this one. I was saying you don't have to take a long time, or you don't have to rush. You take whatever time you feel you want to put into this piece. You've already created another painting. There's not a lot of pressure. You know, I was kinder to myself, and that let me have a lot of fun. So I just put color down and sculpted afterwards. I have a reference that I'm constantly referring back to. I have a couple of references. One's more for the color scheme that I'm going for. One is showing me water, because goodness, I could never paint water without a reference. Oh my goodness. But I used a image off of Pixabay, and I'm not copying it directly. It's more of just to see how wave textures work. And then for this sky, I wanted to again paint clouds. I don't know where this inspiration came from, because I am normally terrified to paint clouds in the sky. They're so fluffy, it's hard to get that texture right, it's hard to get all of the lighting right, but I was just going for it. And I'm glad that I did. I think that it was a good learning experience, and it didn't feel like I was learning, it just felt like I was having fun. There is no real method behind this madness that's happening now. I just looked at my reference and put down dark where I thought that I saw dark, and I definitely did not copy perfectly by any means. It was just a complete guess the whole time. And then I went into this mid-tone, which I think that I should have done the mid-tone first and then the dark and then the highlights, but that's just hindsight's 2020, right? But yeah, I went into this mid-tone, and again, just staring at the reference, trying to decide where I should put these colors. I changed my mid-tone across the painting, trying to match it to the sky and the highlights. I even add some pink and yellow in there, but not a whole lot. And I think that I should have changed where I added the pink, but that's okay. I still enjoy how it turned out, and like I said before, always room to grow. Then I proceeded to go back in with the dark tone, because I felt that the mid-tone went over a lot of the shadows and their crisp sort of lines. I wanted to make them a bit more crisp again. So that's why I think if I did this again, I would try to do the mid-tone first, but I'm not sure. And then finally I added in some highlights. I find it personally really difficult to not go overboard, especially when it comes to water. But I think I like the amount that I did, and I hope that you do too. So there are my 2 gouache paintings. I'm so glad that I took out the paints again. It's been forever since I used gouache. It's my favorite medium. If I had to choose one, it would definitely be that one. I hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you next week. I put out videos every single Sunday and shorts every Friday. Take care. Please like and subscribe.